Aloha, I'm Lila Mower, President of Kokua Council. Vice Presidents Rick Tabor and Greg Misakian and our IT whiz Doug Matsuoka will assist as co-hosts. For more than 50 years, Kokua Council has addressed good governance to protect our community and has even taken legal action to encourage government transparency to ensure accountability. Service is something that is deeply ingrained in the members of Kokua Council, many of whom served as volunteers in multiple roles in our communities for decades. During the pandemic, when the legislature was closed to the public, we're fortunate to have legislators and community leaders connect with us through Kokua Council Zoom meetings. We appreciated their aloha, and some of them are again with us today on this state holiday, honoring Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalani Oli Pi'ikoi. Among those invited to join us today is a legislator who signs his emails with the term public servant before any other designation. The term public servant elevates elected officials to someone who chooses to serve. Embracing the office is an opportunity to serve and implies that the needs of constituents are of great significance. Because of the seemingly unending revelations of corruption in our local government, we hope our legislators, whom we look upon as our representatives and leaders, will commit to elevating their profession from politician to public servant and will restore our free trust in their professions. Let's begin our forum with introductions. The order in which our guests will speak was determined by their entrance to our meeting. So we'll start with Senator Sharon Moriwaki, followed by Representative Jean Ward. We have other guests, Senator Brenton Awa, Representative Elijah Parrott, Senator Joy San Buenaventura, who I do not think are joined us yet. Each legislator will have up to 5 minutes for an introduction to share their legislative goals, their legislative successes and failures, and whatever else they may want to share with us, including how we may help them. After all legislators have spoken, we'll open the forum to questions and answers, with each question no more than a minute to present. Please use the raised hand icon to indicate that you have a question to ask. To give opportunities to ask as many participants as possible, we will initially limit each participant to no more than 2 questions. Legislators are asked to limit their responses to up to 3 minutes. The questions may be directed to a specific legislator or to the whole panel. Our guest panelists are also encouraged to ask questions of each other. So Senator Moriwaki, will you please begin? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, aloha everyone. Good to see you again and everybody else. Happy Prince Kuhio Day. I am the co-chair with Representative Troy Hashimoto. I'm sorry he's not on this Zoom call, but we are the co-chairs of what's called the Legislative Kupuna Caucus. And it's many of you, I think most of you, are on the Kupuna Caucus. It not only includes legislators, House and Senate, but also, and as importantly, a lot of the providers and interested people who want to provide services or need services for the elderly and the disabled. So we prioritize 5 bills out of the many to the Kupuna Caucus. And this year we had the 5 bills were the Our Care, Our Choice bill, which is the advanced care bill. A rent supplement program for at-risk seniors. You know, a lot of our homeless are seniors, and it's because we don't have the housing. And so we've put in a rent supplement program to prevent or to help them to get into a rent supplement program so they can get help with their rent. There was a clinical center of excellence to address quality long-term care shortages, and this really became the workforce shortage bill. The State Health Insurance Assistance Program, known as SHIP, which is to help Medicare or people who will be looking for Medicare to really get some objective information on Medicare and how they can sign up with it, because there's so many people out there selling Medicare insurance. and to create a long-term care education and training entity. Those were the top 5. And of those that are still alive are the Our Care, Our Choice. And I think we are going to move to passing it this year. It is now in the Judiciary Committee. And those of you interested, please submit testimony on March 30. It's in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that's HB 650. We also have the rent supplement program. It is a Senate bill, SB 898 in finance. And I'm not sure it's been scheduled yet. So those of you advocates can call or email Representative Yamashita, who's the chair of the Finance Committee. I don't think we really had anything going on. So we've lost this clinical center of excellence. I don't see anything there. Enhancing SHIP. I'm sorry. Yeah, SHIP is alive in SB 900. It's also in finance. It's SB 900. And the long-term care education and training entity is House Bill 652, and it's coming to Ways and Means. Oh, I must say that I sit on a number of committees in addition to the Kupuna Caucus. I am the chair of the Labor and Technology Committee, so a lot of the workforce shortage kinds of bills are coming to me. The Health and Human Services Committee, so I'm sorry I don't see Chair San Buenaventura, but we sit together on the committee, so we are looking at all the long-term care and elderly bills. And I also sit on Ways and Means. So looking at the financing and as you heard, the Council of Revenues came out with a not so positive report in March, but we are looking at what are high priorities for us to fund going forward and looking at the federal monies that will be running out and what can we do to build that foundation so that we don't have that deep fall after the federal funds leave us. So those are the Kupuna Caucus bills. There were a number of other bills, and I could go on, but I don't want to take everybody's time. But I do want to say that we focus on long-term care this year. It was not really being addressed previously, but I did sit, Caroline Kadirao from Executive Office on Aging and I sat on what's called the Council of State Government Task Force on Long-Term Care. It included 8 agencies. So many of you were asked to task a number of different issues from workforce shortage to community-based programs to fees and so we pulled some of that together that had to do with across the board what we could do to increase our worker shortage, to address the worker shortage. And I want to thank everyone who helped in that effort. And so we were told today that it is continuing for phase 2. So whatever we worked on last year, we can build upon both at the state level, and we will get help on resources from the national level. So I do want to ask all of you to continue helping us on really improving our long-term care system. You know, the federal CNS is really focusing on community and home-based services because the cost of institutional care is so high that they are looking at offloading. So the way that we can work together is looking at how we might find ways to support and increase the fees. There's a bill, I think it's SB397, which is for Medicare patients, to increase the fees so that it is at the Medicare level. So again, bringing more support and services to the home and community-based providers. The other is SB1035, which is, again, waiving the GET for those who serve Medicaid, Medicare patients and services. So there's a number of different bills that sort of looks like it's a mix of all kinds of things. But I think the positive of that is that we're all thinking about what kinds of solutions are there. There's no one silver bullet, as they say. The most important thing is that we're putting bullets out there, and we'll see what takes. All of these are moving along. They are now in the final committee, and we've got a couple of weeks until we see what comes out of it. Many are in what they call the last committee, which is Ways and Means or Judiciary or Consumer Protection. But basically it's Ways and Means and Judiciary, the legal issues and the fiscal issues. So I would urge you, if you can support these bills. There's also an HB838, which is a Long-Term Care Commission bill. There was a Long-Term Care Commission way back in 2012 or 2008, and they came up with a report and goals. And it's sort of, as everything else gets lost along the way. So we're trying to dust that off and see if we can reactivate a Long-Term Care Commission at the university, and whether we can pull in resources, research, as well as services, and look at policies and programs. I think it's time for us to really look forward on long-term care. So I'm really pleased that so much effort and interest, working with even the healthcare association. So looking at ways in which we can develop our workforce as well. I think we are trying to, from the labor perspective, from the looking at where we have real shortages, like the CNAs, looking at how we might create a glide path. So from high school or college, community college, and career laddering that into a program so that we can get the workforce, or at least the interest in young people, to move into the area. So I'm really excited about that. And I think that there is in the community college budget, they've got a federal grant. I don't know if you all have heard about the Good Jobs Hawaii, but they have $35 million for creating training programs in 4 areas, and one is healthcare. So we're really trying to see whether the Department of Labor and the community colleges working together with the Healthcare Association, and perhaps some of you who aren't involved, to help us in onboarding some programs where we could have that kind of training program from CNA, a career ladder, to the nursing field or to other medical health fields. That's really critical for our shortage in the whole healthcare network. But I'm excited about that as well. And I'd like to see more involvement of the aging network in terms of the kinds of competencies we need, where we need them, having internships. There's a whole slew of internships I'm hearing from Department of Labor that I think we gave them last session. We, being the legislature, provided funding for some 300 internship positions for the state, including state government as well as the state. And those can be used for developing internships into these programs. And maybe that's an area where we could model some internship programs in the long-term care area. So with that, I'm going to stop. And if you have questions, there's a whole bunch of other areas. For example, a workshop for digital literacy, SCR 185. It's a resolution, but it asks the EOA to work with what's called the Broadband and Digital Equity Office in DBED, Economic Development Department, to help seniors develop workshops to help seniors to learn about the broadband, get computers, or not get computers, but help them to find the right computers and also learn how to use their computers so that they can be more connected. So that is something that I think both EOA and the Broadband Equity Office. Broadband Equity Office also has federal money. So we're trying to use the money in a way that we can help our kupuna, so that they can be more connected. And I know that Bert Lum, who runs that office, is very interested and he's committed to helping us. So that's something, again, it's an administrative thing, but the resolution does direct the two to work together. And I think I'll stop there unless you have questions.
I think we do have questions, but we'll hold off until we're ready for a question and answer session.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon. Senator Moriwaki. Rep Ward, are you there? I know he was in and out. Oh, I see him. Rep Ward, can you hear me? There. You're muted, please.
I can now. Okay, I got molasses in my coaxial cables here in Hawaii. Easy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good Senator Moriwaki. It wasn't that I went down because of what you were saying. It's all technological. So my apologies, everybody. And thank you for the re-invitation, especially on a holiday when a lot of you have shown up. And interestingly, this is Kohio Dave, the founder of our Republican Party. And Madam Chair, this is the first time I've ever seen any participation publicly where the guests actually outnumber the Democrats. Having said that, let me go directly into what is the affair of the day. First of all, I want you to know that my priorities have been two things. Alice families, the asset limited income challenged earners, guys who are working or on the border of poverty, and secondly, Native Hawaiian issues. But before I go into the specifics of those two things, I want to introduce some of the things that I've introduced because I think they would be right down the mainstream of what the council would be interested in. First is HB 1170 relating to housing. Basically, it's an easy way to solve the housing crisis. It's not a silver bullet, but it goes a long way to being a bronze one. It establishes the accessory dwelling unit on your property. Anybody who's got 5,000 feet or and they rent it out for 3 years, we will match you dollar for dollar. This means we've got a lot of spaces on the private sector that can really pitch in and do housing. Second one is HB 1172 relating to bail. Basically, it's an IOU. It helps the poor from getting incarcerated. All they got to do is sign an IOU, or basically a promissory note. If they show up for court, it's a wash. The thing is ripped up. Thirdly, this is kind of getting into the Hawaiian issues, is a bill that I've introduced every year for probably 10 years. And finally, something's happening. It's ending the desecration or the disrespect, I should say, of Iolani Palace. Those parking meters and all the people walking around on all that blacktop. It proposes to put a walkway, garden type setting, and take those ugly parking meters off the premises. And lastly, it's relating to what 150 million people in our nation have now with TikTok, particularly taking the youth of America and feeding all their information on how to kill yourself to other things that China would love to see have happen. And another thing, this is a bit of inside baseball, Lila, but we have the Communist Party newspaper delivered to the state capitol called the China Daily. Just in case you didn't know that, this is an FYI. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Obviously, it comes out of the Star Advertising Production Group. I don't think they produce it here, but they distribute it. So stay tuned to that one. That's if it was Pravda, we'd probably jump up and down, but it's just a slow burn like TikTok. Some of the special bills I'm supporting is Josh Green's. Hey, let's take away the GT tax on food and medicine. Medical service. GT tax on medical service. That's HB 1382. And some of the things, lastly, as I wrap up, some of the things I'm opposing, other than tax increases is SB 926. It legalizes jaywalking, which I think is a big mistake. Get 1/3 of the people killed on our highways in crosswalks. You want to do jaywalking to kill a few more? Let's have SB 926. Also, a very dangerous bill is HB1319, which allows, if you're a motorcycle or a lightweight motorcycle, because you can't have the light change between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., you can run red lights. Just so you know that. And then lastly, the citation rather than an arrest by the police. In other words, you give a parking ticket if somebody's got even things like aggravated assault or manslaughter. You just give them a parking equivalent of a ticket, which to me is taking an unsafe position. And in all respect for the good senator, I know she has a bill, SB 1417. It, to me, is a disingenuous bill, another way to tell OHA, who owns the Kakakumakai development rights, that this bill says that they can tell anybody on that seafront where they can locate their building or where they cannot locate their building. And I think it's a bit disingenuous. Having said that, I look forward to your question and thank you for spending your holiday on the internet with us. Aloha, thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Ward. Please wait for questions and answers. I see
Yes.
Senator Joy San Buenaventura. Hi, Senator. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can hear me.
And I wanna point out too that I think that's Gillian Anderson here, and that would even out Republicans and Democrats that actually showed up.
Okay.
Good point,
Anyway.
sir.
All right.
Balance works best.
Senator Joy, are you there? Can you hear us?
Unmute, Joy.
I provoke her. One of my best debating partners was Joy when she was in the House. Now she's in the Senate, and I miss her. She's on mute. Joy, if you can hear us,
Joy.
just click on the bottom lower left-hand microphone. Maybe the Big Island's got as much molasses in their cables as having.
Let me see. Doug, can you put a chat to her?
I just texted her.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
If the internet is bad, when you click on your microphone, nothing happens. And so she may be doing what she's supposed to do, but
If we can't resolve the technical issue right at the moment, I suggest that we ask Gillian Anderson to present and answer questions if she wants to.
Gillian.
Jill,
Jillian is my office manager. She's smarter than I am.
Okay, sorry about that.
all right. So Senator Joy, when possible, please join in. Let's go into Q&A then, since while we wait for Senator Joy San Buenaventura.
Good
Okay.
idea.
Technical difficulties. Joy says that she tried, but she cannot get through. I think Rick sent her a link. Maybe Rick sent another link.
Well, no, she's on the link that I sent her.
Oh,
It seems to be just a problem with unmuting.
oh,
But we're not able to do it on our end, so.
oh.
I see,
It's a poor internet. I had the same
Yeah.
problem.
so I see Doug has his hand up.
Well, I just wanted to ask Sharon Moriwaki to identify the bills by SBHB numbers so we can kind of keep track of it over on this side.
Okay. Do you want to go down the list or
Any in particular?
okay, so I'm gonna, oh, there she is. She's on.
Sorry.
Joy.
All right.
So I'm finally able to unmute. So I'm sorry, I had some difficulty just getting the Zoom link apparently. So I wasn't able to hear the presentation except the latter end of Rep. Ward's, but I think the big ones that are going through is Our Care, Our Choice. And that is continuing. Basically, use should they at least get the option of using APRNs and reducing the waiting periods, because people were having a difficult time being able to take advantage of our Care Our Choice. So that's a big one. The second one is our GE tax exemptions for TRICARE, Medicare, and Medicaid. That one hopefully will expand medical providers that provide services for the poorest of the poor. Right now, medical providers are getting paid like 67% of Medicare amount. So there are very few medical providers accepting, Medicaid and TRICARE, because they're just not getting reimbursement to at least cover their expenses. In fact, they're getting paid. When I heard how low the Medicaid reimbursement was, it's frankly surprising that people are doing it at all. So those are the big ones. And I believe probably Senator Moriwaki talked about the long-term care workforce. That's one of the Kokua Caucus's bills, as well as giving Office of Aging some positions for their Medicare patrol, as well as for other services. I think as far as as far as the healthcare front, we're doing what we can. The biggest thing that coming out of this session is we're pushing a number of compact bills so that hopefully we can get those who are licensed in other states to be able to practice here in Hawaii. I mean, a big example of that is like my sister, who is a emergency room physician, as well as a family pediatric urgent care board certified physician who is licensed in Arizona. But, she comes over to Hawaii part-time. She would like to work in Hawaii part-time, but she doesn't have the time to go through the certification and licensing here. So I heard also of a number of military personnel and their dependents who are also having difficult time because DCCA is super stressed with labor shortages, that they cannot seem to get the certification and licensing fast enough for medical providers. So the compacts hopefully will loosen that up if we could get it through, and we could hopefully get more medical providers here in Hawaii. But that's the big deal that's coming out of my, as well as, a number of homeless services that we're continuing forward, but hopefully with increased monies, hopefully we can actually put a dent on the homeless crisis in the next coming years. But that's about it for me.
Thank you very much, Senator. All right, so now we're going to go into our Q&A session. If you have any questions, please use the raised hand icon. And at that point, please unmute yourself when you are selected to ask the question. Okay, so first of all, I don't see any hands up. Would anyone like to ask a question? Oh, Lourdes, I see. Go ahead, Lourdes, please unmute yourself. After you, it will be read.
Hi, thank you for attending Kokua Council. And so it's easier for us to reach you and to let you know what our concerns is about. And mine is and Lila, you can correct me, is SB729 on educating the board directors. And that bill was kind of sort of watered down. It was supported by ACCA and CAI to implement education, mandatory education for directors. And as a former Kokua Council director, and I still am a member, there's a lot of educators from the university that are members of Kokua Council. So we all strongly support education at any level. But the reason why I'm asking for to really look into this, and a suggestion that Sue Salvio had done at one of the programs that I attended was when I bought my unit in 2004, I didn't know that there was any educational programs with condominium for condominium owners also. In 2011 to 2013, I served as a director on my board, and I was never told that there were classes that were available to us until I met Lila. And then I went to my first CAI and started to absorb a lot of the information. But one of the things that, because this thing is so difficult to mandate volunteer directors, one of the suggestions that Sue Savio said, and I hope that you think about it, is that whenever a new condo owner buys a condo, that the real estate agent or real estate commission engages in giving them information on the links, how to attend the CAI meeting, Condorama. See, up to 2016, the very first Condorama that did come back, it was initiated because Lila and the participants of the HUI made kind of rattled around and said, you know, we ordinary people don't get any information or any education, because the meetings for educating was in the middle of the week and it was lunchtime, and they charged a lunch fee for that. So when I attended my very first CAI meeting, I sat across another director who had director on her badge, and I didn't have a director because I wasn't one. And so she says, are you a director? And I said, no, I'm not. Oh, I just own a condo. And then she told me, well, you don't belong here. And I go, well, I don't understand. Why don't I belong here? So I think the reaching out to owners for education has been lacking so much for so many years, that I think Sue Savio's recommendation to give all brand new owners that are buying the condos where to reach the educational part, because us owners are getting battered because they're saying, oh, well, you know, the owners don't show up for the meetings, the owners are, from 2004 up to 2011 and 13, I was working really hard just to pay my mortgages and stuff. So in my condo, because of the lack of education for my directors, we have been assessed $1.6 million, and that's only the top of the iceberg.
Lourdes, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but it's supposed to be a question and
Oh, I'm
one
sorry.
question
Yeah,
in 1 minute.
So the question is, will you consider Sue Savio's recommendation in giving information to brand new owners so they can educate themselves? And then self-governance will come a lot easier if they're educated, and find people who can sit on the board who are educated. Thank you.
Lourdes, are you directing your question to an individual
No,
legislator?
To everybody in the
Everybody.
legislature. Yeah, if they want to answer me, that's fine.
But let me take a stab at it, Lourdes. You sound like a good educator, a good lobbyist. If you went into every representative and said what you just said, the bill probably would have passed. I voted for that bill. I've been on condo boards. I'm now on the board of governors of East Center. And I know education, you know, the boards are only as good as the knowledge they bring or the knowledge that they're given. So to me, that bill was a no-brainer, quite frankly. And, you know, a lot of the departments often say, look, that's more manpower, give us more money. And, you know, money can't be distributed that quickly, that easily. So I think if you keep persisting with that, it should definitely pass, because it's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Okay, I'll respond as well. The Real Estate Commission does ask every single owner of a condo to put in, I think it's $1.50 every other year. So they have a budget to do the training. So Lourdes, what you're saying exists and can be done. The bill is to train board members, but I think there's a reso, and I wasn't expecting to have a condo question at this meeting, so I really focus on elderly, but I think there's a resolution that does, or at least tries to do what you're saying, which is having real estate agents when they sell the property, because condos are a different animal than buying your own home, or renting a home. You do have other members that are part of your ohana in the condo building. So there is a reso to ask that the real estate commission use some of its funds in the trust account to train owners as well as board members, as well as real estate agents who are selling property, to let people know when they're buying a condo, there are some responsibilities, and here's how the condo works. So what you're asking for is in a reso, and the real estate commission should be asked to use some of its funds for that. They have a hefty budget every year.
So what I'm hearing, that the possibility of giving a brand new owner all of these flyers that we produce, they'll get it as when they sign on the dotted line.
Well, it's not in the reso that specifically, but I think the follow-up is in the interim, after we get through all of this. If the reso passes, it's something that we can talk to the real estate commission to do what you're saying. And it can be done administratively and not necessarily through a bill or a reso, but the reso would help.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
There's got to be tons of material that can
Yeah.
put that together into a
And you
brochure.
can contact me, during the interim, we'll work on that.
Okay, I will. It was very helpful when I attended my first CAI meeting. It was totally awesome.
Yeah, okay, good. So they have all of that. So, putting that all together for everybody is good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, we interrupted Doug when he was starting to ask a question. So Doug, do you have a question?
Actually, my only question was a request that people answering the questions include the bill number. It makes it a lot easier for us to follow things along. That's my only comment at the moment.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that Rick was next in line.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us. Really, really appreciate hearing from you guys. And I always appreciate all the work that you're doing for Hawaii. So I usually write a ton of questions before we do this, but I decided today to do it differently and just to listen and then come up with some questions. And you sparked one for me, Senator Joy. I'm doing all this retirement volunteering that I'm doing because when I moved to Hawaii, the licensure would not accept my application for my mental health license because my syllabus from the 1980s was not online. So not only do I not have a mental health license in Hawaii, I continue, just got it today. This is my license, just approved in the state of Washington. I've been in the field for 47 years and was unable to get my license. And we have a huge mental health crisis here, and I want to do the work. Is there any way that any of you could support not just the doctors getting licensed, but folks in social work and counseling, which is what we really need here? You only got 34% of folks in the state of Hawaii that can actually access mental health issues. And I want to help. That's why I'm doing all these nonprofits, but I'm really a counselor at heart. I started at K-Bay by being petty officer in charge of the mental health clinic in 1979, or 1976 it was actually, while I was a student at Chaminade. So I'm just gonna put that out to you guys and just say, that's a bill I would like to see so that my colleagues and I could actually do some mental health work here. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not just the doctors. There are about a series of 6 bills
Okay.
that went through. And one of them was the big one that was supported, of course, were the physicians. The nursing compact, the APRN compacts, those are formed by working groups because for some reason the nurses were against that. So we need to find out from the nurses why they're against the compacts. But we also, not only do we have the compacts for the mental health and counselors, that's also one of the compacts that if Hawaii becomes one of the compact states, and hopefully Washington would be one of them, then you would be given a license. You already have your Washington license, and all you'll need is like a GE tax license and just register with the DCCA that you will be practicing in Hawaii, because
All
you're
right.
right, we do need it. But there is also another bill that we just passed just Thursday, which is basically allowing for provisional licenses for those who are in for mental health counselors, behavioral health, and psychology counselors. So we'll see how far that goes. Okay, because we're also hearing people who come in for internship, like at the public safety, and they can't stay on because for their locum tenens license or provisional license is ended. So we need to be able to allow for that kind of counseling to continue. So
Okay.
that's one of those things. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things that my committee, of which Senator Moriwaki is part of, we spearheaded this session, is to examine and see whether or not we can move towards compacts, interstate compacts.
Okay.
So
Can you send
that
us
was,
the bill numbers to those? I would like to get
Uh,
active on those.
okay, so yeah, we will send that to you as soon as I park somewhere.
Oh, you're
Okay.
driving. I'm sorry.
I am,
Okay.
no, I am
Thank you,
parked right
Senator.
now while I'm talking to you, but where I am at an office, okay?
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Rick, this is no-brainer number 2, if I may chime in on here. Generally speaking, the subculture of government or the subculture of Hawaii and licensure reciprocal agreements, we've been always playing hard to get. And especially now when you are probably the highest in demand and probably in the nation as well as the state have a shortage because of the mental health deterioration that's happened for very, very many reasons. But if you're an engineer, if you're an architect, my daughter is a attorney in Boston. They don't have a reason. So it's kind of across the board. So don't feel alone, but keep pushing it because you are high in demand. And if we've got our common sense feet on the ground, we should get you in as quick as possible. In fact, make sure that you don't run away like many doctors do because of pay and taxes and a number. Thanks for that, Cliff. I yield to Senator Moriwaki.
What do you think, Senator?
Well, I think what Joe answered your question. You make
He
sure
did.
you get the numbers and distribute it so that people
Yeah.
can testify.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, it appears that the next question comes from Dale.
Oh. Hello there, aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for putting up with us this morning. It's wonderful to get legislators in a meeting like this. The trivia question, Governor Ige, when he pushed for an increase in the state minimum wage, he actually provided testimony on the bill, and several of his department heads did also. And later I noticed that when he would make nominations to various departments, many of his department heads would support the nominations, like they're falling all over each other to please his boss, which is good. But I've been going down Capitol for years now. I noticed that the legislators themselves never weigh in on a bill they introduce on behalf of a constituent. I'm not aware of any rule against that. So I'd like your opinion on that matter about actually supporting bill testimony. Thank you. Representative Ward, how about you first?
Please repeat the question. I got some of it, but then it slipped away when you did it very quickly. Please repeat the question.
Well, I'd like to know if your opinion if it would be appropriate for legislators to offer witness testimony on a bill that they introduce.
Should legislators give testimony in hearings? Is that
Right.
in the old days, I got elected in the 90s. That was common for legislators, senators, representatives, and even staff, which was generally accepted. Now, I mean, without saying it's taboo, it's kind of frowned upon. I personally believe that it should be allowable, and it was never a rampant sort of thing. It had never biased, to my understanding, anybody or anyone. I think it should be encouraged. But remember, the mantra is, when the people lead, the politicians follow. Unless it comes from an organization like yourself or people who feel like you, Dale, they're going to keep the same old, the way that keeps things rather controlled. And if you look at the committee system, remember, there's a famous quote that came out a couple of years ago. The person who said it is now in jail. He says, I can kill a bill anytime we want. We've got to revive our committee system to allow when you want to pass a bill, you vote, but when you want to kill a bill, you leave it up to one individual. It's totally outside the purview of democracy, according to my version. So thank you, Dale, for that question.
Thank you.
I'll try a stab at it. I guess for me, we've got our own committees and we try to open it to, well, now we have Zoom to the neighbor islands that we'd like to hear from the community. So a legislator usually introduces a bill on behalf of their constituent or someone who comes to them and asks them to introduce a bill. And hearings are to hear from all sides. And so I would look to, not that frowning upon it, but I would look to hearing from the community that's most affected by the bill, pros and cons, and we read all the testimony, so then we can make a better decision. But it's not frowned upon. I don't know, but I've never seen it done in the Senate. Maybe Joy.
Joy, are you still in your helicopter or your car? I couldn't make out for you. He has lost.
Yeah, so
Others.
generally we don't, generally we don't testify because by the fact that we are introducing the bill, the fact that we are supporting as co-introducers, as co-sponsors, we already show that we are supporting the bill. So, and I know Rep. Perrick testified in my committee against SB1. So it's not that you cannot do it, but generally speaking, it's by custom that we don't do it.
All right, thank you very much. The next question comes from Greg Misakian. Greg?
Aloha, everyone. First, thank you for being here on a holiday and sharing your personal time with us. I do have a question that's related to condominiums, and I just wanted to premise the question with the reason why we do bring up condominium issues in Kokua Council. It's because there's so many of them in Hawaii and because the costs are ever increasing, and it's impacting our kupuna, unfortunately, in a very negative way, especially where there are kupuna on fixed budgets and management fees, or fees, I should say maintenance fees, management fees, insurance fees, everything continues to rise, but exponentially, not in a natural curve. So I have two questions. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity for both of them, so I'm going to ask the most important one right now and just raise a concern and then the question. So this is what I have written, so I'm reading it off something if I'm looking down at it. My condominium association held its annual meeting and election a week ago today, and I was elected to the board of directors as treasurer. Our management company's license has been inactive, showing unable to practice since January of this year. Something I just found out a few days ago, and not from anyone at my association, the board, or the management company self-reporting. They oversee billions of dollars in property value across Hawaii and are one of the top 3 condominium association management companies. This malfeasance is palpable and needs immediate attention, which an ombudsman office would provide if we had one. We had voted out this management company at last year's annual meeting from a motion I made from the floor, but no action was ever taken by our board to replace them. As a board member of my association, as I am now, I have a fiduciary duty to act. What will you do as legislators to help address this very troubling concern? Will you help my association and all other associations impacted across Hawaii? And will you join me in contacting RICO and the Real Estate Commission? Mahalo to our legislators who are going to step up and help to answer that question.
Let me take a crack at that. Great. Thank you for the question. It's a little bit more inside baseball than we can naturally respond with specificity, but I would say generically, the DCCA people are the people who put people inactive, and generally when you don't pay your dues, I don't know if there's things that they've done incorrectly, but if you're inactive, that means you are in violation of something. Generally, if it's realtors, they haven't paid their dues, or for some other reason have put it on ice. But secondly, who is your representative or who is your senator? Because that is generally the protocol to bring those issues politically. And if they've done due diligence, you should find that out first. Because generally, if you push politically too far on an issue too fast, and you haven't done due diligence, they say, this is just another political thing. Whereas if you've done due diligence and everything is, all the I's have been dotted and the T's crossed, then political pressure really means something. So who is your rep in either in the House or the Senate? Because that's the person that I would think you want to begin this with, and make sure that you have an audit trail of all the things that they've done or not done, and how you can actually vote as a board and nothing happens. That kind of puts the ball in your court, though, Greg. I mean, when a board acts on something, they don't do it. That's their response. Anyways, that's my initial
I'm
thought.
sorry, I have to leave. I've been beckoned.
Go ahead, Sharon, go ahead. You're a condo specialist.
So
Sharon is our, Senator Moriwaki is
Oh,
our
she's-
representative.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Talk to me later. I really must go. I'm late for a meeting in Ways and Means, and I've been called to go. So I'm gonna leave you. Bye.
She will get back to you. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Senator.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. I would like
Joy?
to, yeah, I'd like to interject before the other Senator, Senator Buenaventura makes a comment. I'd just like to interject to your concern too. And one thing, I do due diligence when I research something. So I've done due diligence already as best I could. And what I do know is that there were 2 brokers listed for this particular management company. And both of those brokers' licenses show inactive, unable to practice. So most likely the company lost the right to practice. But the fact that the company is practicing on a regular basis with many associations throughout Hawaii, and they oversaw our annual meeting on Monday, is of deep concern to me. And there's a
Greg,
lot more to the story. So I'll
Sorry.
stop there. So I'll let you guys have an
But Greg,
opportunity.
did you call DCCA to see if they're licensed? They even have a
I have.
online thing.
I have. I've already spoken to DCCA. I've
Oh,
already
okay.
spoken to Rico. Oh, I've already done all of the above, and yeah, there's much more to the story. That's why I've done the due diligence, and
He is then Sharon Moriwaki, who said she'd get back to you.
yeah,
That's
so
the beginning of political. I yield to the good senator from the Big Island.
So basically, there are only a few management companies, right, that does condominium management. And, the condo, my understanding of the condo rules, they already allow for arbitration whenever there is a dispute. So I will, like I said, I am going to be like Rep Ward, and I'm going to yield to whoever your representative to advocate on your behalf. But you folks already know that from the bills I have introduced, whenever I feel that there's an overreach of the association or mismanagement, that I've usually advocated for the condo owners themselves, because I personally am a condo owner. But this sounds too esoteric for me to comment right now.
And Lila, I promised today on Kuhio Day that I would do a honeydew project at Lowe's. So my wife is waiting for me. Unless there's something specific to me, I would yield the rest of the questions to the Senate.
I have a short question.
Okay, Doug, Lila, may Doug proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Since we have a Republican and a Democrat in the House here, Kokua Council, we take care of our older people. Well, we take care of the younger people too. I just want to know from each of you, how appropriate do you think is it for a public school to assure LGBTQ students that they are welcome, they're safe, and they have a right to an education? And if flying a flag LGBTQ flag is inappropriate or appropriate?
I have no problem with that, Doug. Not at all.
Neither do I. So, and in fact, if you look at my bills, I've had a number of LGBTQ bills, and a number of my bills this year, in fact, removed the reference to gender that has been in statute. So,
Doug, let
you
me-
know, I accept the fact that we have an LGBTQ population and they're entitled to an education like everyone else.
Let me end on a happy note before I have to do my honeydew project. And that is, before we're Republicans or Democrats, you mentioned that, you know, we got one of each here. We're Americans first. That's where the Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution. So, having said that, thank you guys for the invitation. I appreciate it. Happy Kohio Day. We do have the day off. Hopefully it's not going to rain too much. I appreciate it. And if I didn't do too bad, I look forward to an invitation next year. Thank you. Aloha.
You're invited 2 months.
Oh my
from now.
goodness. Oh,
2
thank
months
you.
from now, the good, bad, and the ugly. Thank you
Okay, I love that.
for
I
your
love your
participation.
descriptions. Thank you, everybody. Aloha.
Thank you, Rep. Ward. Well, Senator Joy, I guess you get to take the rest of our questions.
Well, I
Right.
came in late, so I am required to, I think. Anyway, and I have parked, but I will probably turn off my video while I go to my office. So
All right.
any other questions?
The next question comes from Rick.
You lowered my hand. Actually, you know, the question actually is for you, Senator. I haven't heard it in this presentation, an update on the hearing aid bill. I know you sponsored that and are very involved with that through the deafblind task force. And a second part of it is our next actual presentation is in April. These are always on Mondays, and we're going to do something around disabilities and disabilities awareness. And so a second part of the question is, and we can do this offline, I would like to hear from you of who you would recommend that we have present. We have a couple of people lined up, or we have one person that Greg lined up for us. But maybe you and I could have a discussion after this on that. The question right now is really on hearing aids, and where is that at in the process? And it looks like you froze up there. The senator has frozen up.
Well, not the senator, but I think her internet.
Hey, this is new, me, right? She's not in North Dakota. Okay, well, I can hold off on that. Oh, you're muted, Lila.
Thank you very much. I wonder if she can hear us. Oh, Senator, are you there?
Well, I can real quick. So if we don't know what the bill is, basically, it's a bill that's been reintroduced for several years now. And it's to, did she just fall off? She just fell off. Okay, she'll come back in probably. It's asking to cover $1,500 per year for hearing aids. This would be over the top hearing aids. And the bill has, and actually Senator Moriwaki and I were very involved in that, and Barbara also through the years. But Senator reintroduced the bill. So if she comes back on, we can have her talk about that. If not, take it away, Lila.
Okay, well, the next question comes from Greg, except I don't see any legislators, do you? And then maybe Senator San Buenaventura went to her office.
It would have to be a rhetorical question.
Right.
Where did Jillian go? If we had Jillian, we could have a future legislator possibly answer a question.
Right.
I think
I think that's probably you, isn't it?
No, I think it might be. I might be Lila.
Senator's coming back in right now. So here's Joy.
Thank you, Senator. I hope you can hear us. We lost you for a while there. The next question.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, thank you very much.
So I'm still asking on the hearing aids,
Okay,
just
go
where
ahead.
that's at. So I explained the hearing aid
Okay.
bill a little bit while you were gone, but where are we at in that process right now, Senator?
My understanding is, we pass it over in the Senate, so it's over at the House Fin Committee. It's up to them now whether or not they decide to pass it, but there are two hearing aid bills. One is the premiums, not premiums, basically the coverage, and the other one is the tax exemption. And I believe both have passed the Senate, and it's over at the House Fin, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Greg, I think you're up next.
Okay, Let me just pull up my question. So this is a question for Senator Buenaventura. It would have been addressed to Senator Moriwaki and Senator Buenaventura, but you only have one at the moment. So both you and Senator Moriwaki had introduced SB 1419 along with others, which is meant to appropriate funds to the Executive Office on Aging within the Department of Health for the Hawaii Healthy Aging Partnership. The measure is moving forward as companion bill HB 872 HD1 SD1. Could you tell us how this bill is helpful to our kupuna and why it is so important, if you're familiar with it? Because I know there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, so we have funded it before. The whole idea behind the aging partnership is to allow for kupuna
Just lost her audio. Shoot.
that increase the standard of living, the quality of life, so that people will age in place. And I think if all of those things got swept during the COVID pandemic at a time when we weren't quite sure whether or not we would have monies to fund these type of programs. So the bill is basically to replace that funding.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hi, Sam. Please ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Senator. First, I wanted to thank you for passing the bill to improve the Our Care, Our Choice Act, House Bill 650, through your committee, and for making really good amendments on the bills. We anticipate that it'll pass the Judiciary Committee. And since you mentioned it at the beginning, I wanted to ask you about it. It has a great deal of support. We're really hopeful to get through this year. As you know, we keep getting calls from people, especially on neighbor islands, who can't access the bill. And so my question is, we anticipate this will go to a conference committee. And so I was curious about the technicalities of that, assuming it passes Judiciary, it passes the Senate, which we believe it's on the road to do. At the conference committee, would that be with you and Representative Abalati, because you're the two health chairs? And I don't know if you even know all the technicalities or thinking this far ahead, but I'm curious about what the conference committee will be like and if there's anything we could do to be helpful for that. Supporters, I mean, of the bill.
Okay, so frankly, Representative Bellotti and myself have been talking about that bill. And if you notice, it is a clean date. So, which means that all the House needs to do is accept the amendments. And the amendments are minor, really, compared to what it could have been. So frankly, I don't expect it to go to conference, and I expect it to pass. Unless, of course, there's a movement to put it into conference. But if it does go to conference, you're right, Representative Bellotti and myself are going to be in the conference committee, and we support it.
That's great. Thank you so much. So then it'll go for a final House floor vote after the Senate floor vote, assuming it makes it through all the next hurdles.
Hello, yes.
So just,
I don't, Senator Rhodes has not informed me as to whether or not he's going to make any changes to it, but, we passed it out clean. He didn't make any major changes to it when it was the Senate version. So I don't expect there to be any problems with it passing out clean for the House to accept our amendments, which are relatively minor. And if so, I think the only reason it may go to conference is the difference in the waiting period, which is a big deal.
yeah.
But other than
Thank you so much.
All right. I think Senator, you were speaking, but somehow you were muted. So I'm sorry, I don't think we caught the last maybe half a minute of whatever you were saying. I'm just gonna go on.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically I said that the Senate bill version passed the judiciary with very little changes to it from the House, from my committee. So I don't expect Senator Rhodes to make any major changes to it. And if you look at the way the bill was drafted after it passed my committee, it passed with a clean date. And that usually signifies that there is no need for it to go to conference if it's just a matter of technical amendments.
Thank you very much, Senator.
All right. The next question comes from Kathy Wyatt. Hi, Kathy.
Good afternoon. I wanted to ask, there are two bills about Medicaid reimbursement to community-based services and other folks as well. It's House Bill 222 and then House Bill 1341 with companion SB 1474. Can you explain to me, they both have to do with reimbursement. They both have to do with getting funding to, I don't know if it's to study the reimbursement issue or is it to put money out there for to increase reimbursement. Can you explain those to me? You're muted.
I'm sorry. So, like I said, I was driving from my home to my Hilo law office and by just telling me the numbers, that's not very helpful because I know bills by concepts.
Okay.
So this is, was it the nursing home Medicaid reimbursement or what is it? Because there were two Medicaid reimbursement to Medicare level bills. One was for nursing facilities and medical professionals, and the other one was for the foster care homes. Are you referring to both of those or is it something else?
Okay, well, SB 1474 appropriates funds for the achievement of full funding, including estimated payment increases of Medicaid home and community-based services. And the other one, hold on a second. 222.
Yes.
222, adjust the method by which the Department of Human Services shall calculate payments to providers of medical care and long-term supports and services.
Okay, so those are the ones I was thinking about. Okay. So basically the idea is because Medicaid payment is 70% of Medicare and Medicare isn't even close to private pay. Those who are accepting Medicaid are severely underfunded and the Medicaid reimbursement, at least for nursing facilities and for adult care foster homes has not increased in over 8 years. Yeah. So at least by providing for an increase of their payment to Medicare levels, they would at least be on par with Medicare levels. It's still far from private pay, but it allows for those who are in the business of the nursing facilities and those who accept Medicaid patients to at least stay in business. Right now, a number of them are barely able to pay for their for their caregivers. And that's the reason why we have a huge shortage of long-term caregivers is we're not paying the care homes sufficient enough monies to stay in operation, and they themselves cannot pay their care home workers the monies they need to survive. So we're hoping that those pass through, and I have strong indications that they will pass this time. And for as long as we have a surplus in the state budget, hopefully that reimbursement will continue.
Okay, well, my concern is, I'm a nonprofit adult daycare center. I have two adult daycare centers. I think that we, as a provider, as someone that accepts Medicaid, that we should be included in all of that. And I noticed you just mentioned the long-term care facilities like foster homes, and that we should, as a community-based service, we should be included in those, in that consideration.
So we just passed a bill last week
Uh-huh.
that for community care foster homes, the small care foster homes will get an increase in the state supplement payment.
Right. But I'm not
Were you aware of that bill?
Yeah, but I'm an adult daycare center and we're not mentioned at all. And we accept Medicaid.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. So that has not, you should have asked me and we would have put it in while the bill was continuing. There was no testimony regarding that. There was?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So you know what? Let me look at it some more and we'll see how much it's going to cost our MedQuest budget. So all of these increase in payments, okay, I just want to make sure you folks know, because it is an increase from the Medicaid reimbursement, it has to come from general funds, from state funds. So usually whenever we pay for Medicaid reimbursement, there's usually a federal match. Okay, so because if we're paying beyond Medicaid reimbursement, we need to get general funds. And the only reason that we probably didn't put in the adult daycare is because we didn't get a budget amount as to how much more it is going to come that we need to budget for it. Okay, if you know how much it's going to cost the state to fund adult daycares to Medicaid fund, to Medicare funds, then it's one of those things that we got to ask WAM to fund. Usually we get those budget analysis from Judy Moore Peterson, and usually that comes before the bill is actually heard, so that at time of the hearing, we can put those monies into the bill.
I've been in contact with her as well on several occasions. But just if I could just make one more statement. Adult daycare is there to keep the Kupuna safe and at home, to prevent them from having to go into institutions. And we save the state tons of money by keeping them out of the residential institutions. So just, I guess that's my statement. we save the state money by keeping them out of the institution. So we should be considered, and the only people that suffer if we don't get reimbursed enough to keep our doors open, we can't accept Medicaid patients, and they're losing out. They're the bottom line losers in the whole situation when they need it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
So we're nearing the end of our forum, so I would like to pose the last question. Senator, at this time in the legislative session, many of us are aware of which measures we supported that failed. And I'd like to know, how soon may we start advocating for those same measures for the next legislative session? When can we start visiting legislators? Because we know you're busy right now with the second half of the session. So what would you recommend?
I hate to say it's going to have to be like after session, even though this is the first year of the biennium, and technically bills that have failed haven't actually failed until they have failed to pass by the second year. The first committee prior to the lateral that fails to hear it cannot hear that same bill until the next session. So, I mean, you can advocate for it right now, but the reality is nothing really can be done until the start of next session.
So if we want to introduce ideas or educate legislators, wait until
Yes,
June?
you should always do that. You should always do that, but usually during the interim and right before the next session is best.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're nearing the end of our 1 o'clock forum. So Senator, would like to give you the opportunity to address us, summarize, make a closing statement.
Basically, a number of bills, I mean, my committee is two combined, it's Health and Human Services. Human Services is in charge of really the largest state budget because it also draws in federal monies, as well as health. And health is huge because of the COVID pandemic, all of the Hep C type of concerns. And so when a bill fails to pass my committee, more than half the time, it's because we just don't have the time. I'm allowed 3 days of hearings at an hour and a half each day. Okay, so if anyone has ever watched any of my hearings, you will see how efficient I am. And I don't think we should be blasted if the bill doesn't get heard. Because more than half the time, we're also waiting for the bill to pass from the other chamber. So if there's like 2 companion bills and one doesn't get heard in the Senate, it's usually because we see the House bill moving. So it's not really worth our time to take off another bill, okay? The only reason that we may hear both would be if it's something of huge import, like our care, our choice, okay? For that has, a lot of interest. So we want to make sure that the advocates know that both chambers are in favor of it, and we wish to expedite it. And also, if you notice, also the Obrero decision, which is the prosecutorial charging, that was also one of those bills that had a huge import. My request is we all go into public service trying to do the best that we can. And I request that when you folks testify that you don't blast us, you can tell us what's wrong with the bill. You can tell us how to amend it. Amending a bill is even more helpful because then we could see how we could fix the bill so that your concerns are taken care of instead of just, saying no to it. Okay. And like I said, we're doing the best that we can.
I
Aloha.
appreciate you. Thank you very much, Senator, because I think it's important for us to see your point of view. We really appreciate that. So again, next month we have a forum on disabilities. And then on May 24th, Kokua Council with Hawaii Alliance for Retired Americans will have a legislative review session called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And Senator, you've joined us in many sessions, so thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Mahalo to all the participants. Please be well, take care, and we'll see you in a month. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.